Welcome back to another episode of the Next Is Now podcast. This is Max Feldman. Shortly here, I'll be joined by a few of our guys, Colby Jacobino, Brian Flynn, and Jeff Kovner. We're going to be breaking down this past weekend's DMV live event. We're going to be breaking down some standouts, talking about MVPs, offensive MVPs, defensive MVPs, and a few more superlatives as well. Obviously, a big weekend out there in Maryland with college coaches in the building, so looking forward to getting into it all. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Welcome on, guys. I wasn't out there this weekend at DMV Live, so I'm looking forward to naturally being filled in from this process. So we're going to roll through here 6 superlatives, beginning with MVP. Then we'll get into a little bit of each one. But I'll start with Jeff here. We're going to talk about MVP. Who is the most valuable player to you this weekend at DMV Live?
My MVP is a guy that I think was kind of the talk of the weekend. He started off a little bit slow Friday night, and then Saturday into Sunday kind of took control of the weekend. That's Lance Stone of Michigan Unified. Short in stature, but big in toughness and heart, and he just runs his team, gets to the paint, makes the right pass. He can score at will, shoots it from deep. He had 2 game winners throughout the weekend in our first to 4 overtime. So the clutch gene is there, the toughness is there. The heart and the will is there. Lance Stone would be my MVP of the DMV Live.
Yeah, I love it. Sounded like he was definitely producing out there. I'm not sure if you guys have different answers here, but I'll go to Flynn here. Who'd you have for MVP?
Yeah, before we jump into my MVP, we need to talk about how Lance Stone had literally everyone talking, from our staff to outside media to college coaches. We had one guy say that it's his favorite player in 2025. We're still not going to out that person. They will probably offer at some point, and then everyone will finally figure it out. But for now, we're going to keep that a secret. My MVP, though, is Andrew Alisenko from Team White Mamba. Really versatile combo forward, probably going to be the 4 at the college level, but rebounds the ball well, scores it in a variety of ways, and just really underrated when it comes to toughness and defense. My favorite thing about White Mamba is look, it's 9 white kids from New England. They don't look tough at all, but god damn, are they tough, man. And Andrew's definitely the one that sets the tone for them and on both sides of the floor, and I think he's going to really blow up this spring.
Absolutely. Colby, who'd you got here?
I had a guy that was playing right next to Flynn's. I'm going with Ace Flag. And when I'm choosing MVPs or whatnot, superlatives, winning is the most important thing to me. And I thought Team White Mamba had the most quality wins over the weekend. And I thought Ace was the offensive hub for White Mamba. They have several guys, as Flynn alluded to, that can go. They're high IQ. Even with, and I spoke with Ace after one of the wins, and he said, a lot of those guys are new for him. Obviously he was playing with Maine United last year, but everybody just kind of assumed these guys have been playing together since they were 8, 9 years old because of the chemistry. And that, isn't very much the case. There's some guys who, joined sort of late, but you couldn't tell by the cohesion. But I just thought with Ace, he was in several occasions, just grab and go, lead the break. Pretty much his whole offensive skill was on showcase, and a lot of college coaches took note to that. Obviously he's in a massive shadow of his brother Cooper, but he can make an offense go. He shot the 3 well, finished around the rim. He's stronger. I just think a lot of people didn't realize how skilled that he was, and some of the wins that they got over the weekend, I think, are worthy of that award for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It speaks to talking to Scal in the preseason when we did the White Mamba preview, everything. He talked a lot about how it was a bunch of new guys, but the goal is to be super, super connected and play like a college system and play with a ton of movement. So that definitely checks out, and it sounds like they've kind of hit the ground running with that. But moving on to our offensive MVP, going back to Jeff here, who you got?
This one was easy for me. It's Tony Williams from New Haven Heat. He was unbelievable this weekend. I sat with a bunch of Division I coaches throughout his 5 games, and people were enamored by the way he plays. His ability to get to the paint. He is an elite level finisher around the rim, especially with his left hand. And he can really shoot the ball. Like, he doesn't have a ton of weaknesses offensively. He's got long arms, so he's kind of deceptive when he gets to the rim. It's tough to guard him. It's tough to keep him out of the paint. He kind of is able to dictate whatever he wants for his team. And he showed the full offensive arsenal all weekend. He's an easy choice for me as offensive MVP.
Well, and I'm assuming you have another one here, but it looked like you agreed with Jeff on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely was going to say Tony Williams, and to just back up everything Jeff said. I mean, the kid has been flat out unguardable, whether it's him getting into the lane or knocking down threes. He's just so tough. And he really has been just impossible to stop on the MHC at this point. I'm actually going to go with the pick that I think if people who know us would assume Jeff and I would have actually switched here. I'm going to go with Brendan Benjamin. Not a guy that wows you as far as measurables. I mean, he's more of a 4 than anything else right now, but really rebounds the ball at a higher rate, scored around the rim, handles contact so well, and is quick and athletic enough that he can get by guys, and he really cause problems when he steps out onto the perimeter and starts taking dudes off the dribble. He showed his whole offensive skill set this weekend, and I don't think he had anything less than a double-double in any one of their 5 games this weekend.
Stepped out and hit a couple threes too, Flynn. That was one of the things.
Sure, that's one of the questions he needs to answer, and he answered that in a pretty resounding way this weekend.
I know. Coming into the weekend, talking to his coach over at Culture, one of the things that he wanted to show, one of the reasons why Brandon, wanted to come over with us, is he believed he can play on the wing more than he's been able to show at Link or his previous AAU stops, and he showed it today. Like Flynn said, or not today. Sorry, this weekend. Like Flynn said, taking guys off the bounce to the rim and showing his ability to shoot it. I think Brandon's a guy that really turned some heads with his full game.
Absolutely. Colby, offensive MVP.
David Papa from Toronto Terror. He's an available 2024, 6'3" guard. Just has a really mature style of play and style of scoring. Does it from all 3 levels. Really good frame on him. And the way that he gets his baskets, I think, are very translatable to the next level. This wasn't my first viewing of David. I saw him earlier in the year for Hodam Prep when they came down to the States for an event, and it was the same thing. He's dropping 25, 30, and he makes it look very much effortless, but it's all within the flow and it's not very forced. Still at this point, I would say he's more of a 6'2", 6'3", like combo guard rather than you would like to maybe see him be more of a point. But nevertheless, they were a team to be reckoned with this weekend, and it was mainly because of his ability to put the ball in the basket. So I think the first night, if I'm not mistaken, I think he dropped 35 in a win, and great kid, 4.0 GPA, so high academics. So all those that are still, scurrying for a guard, I think David Papa is a name that should be on your list.
No doubt. Flipping it to the other end of the floor here. We'll go back to Jeff to start, whether it's a big guy, perimeter guy, whoever it might be, who is a guy who left an impression for you defensively. I'm
going to take a super versatile, long-armed wing. I'm going to take Torbola Babs Obendeji, plays for CM3, 6'5", like a +4, +5 wingspan, showed his versatility and his switchability. I think now in the way the game is played now, you have to be switchable. And Babs showed that he is someone that can guard 1 through 5. He defended some of the better players on our circuit, both guards and bigs. He was switching in ball screens. And so I think his length and his versatility was really impressive and made an impression on me. I think he's someone that his defensive ability is very translatable to the college level right away. So I think Torrey's a guy that coaches that really value that switchability that I discussed should be having on their recruiting boards.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got crazy tools and moves super, super well for his size.
I think Jeff wins this podcast just off that pronunciation, by the way. It's just epic.
I agree.
I practiced the mirror.
That was the MVP of this podcast for sure. Flynn, who you got for defensive MVP?
So I'm going to go with Mustafa Loom, big man from New Haven Heat. I elite leaper and great shot blocker. He uses his length well. I mean, I would say defensively, he was a really big impact guy this weekend. Still a little bit raw offensively, but that's not what we're talking about here. He's a guy that is going to deter shots, grab rebounds, control the boards, and as an added bonus, again, not necessarily defense, but he can get that break started with some good outlet passing. He's a guy that, as an unsigned senior, is still kind of going through the process right now, but I would assume that he's going to be off the board sooner rather than later.
For sure. For our next few, obviously, those ones are more top line ones. For our next few, obviously, with a live period, lots of college coaches in the building wanted to talk more about translating to the next level, things like that. So I want to dive into most college ready. I'll go to Jeff here. Who is a guy that popped for you that can translate to the next level pretty quickly?
I've talked about him a bunch. I'm going to keep talking about him because he's that good. It's Dean Hogans from 6 Hoops. He's every bit of 6'4". His frame is super built, strong, and he showed the ability to score all over the floor. His first game, I think he had 24 points in a really big win. But he's getting to the mid-range and making that pull-up. He's hitting from 24 feet, and he's super creative and super physical at the rim. And I think the reason he's so translatable is that physicality. He can play either guard spot. He's super tough. He's a leader. He's a winner. And, man, is he productive. So most college ready for me is Dean Hogans from 6 Hoops.
For sure. Flynn, who you got for that one?
Yeah, for me, it's Parby Musingela from New York Jayhawks, 6'8" combo forward. Another guy that, to steal one from Jeff here that I've been talking about that I'm going to continue to talk about. I took him in the draft last week, but super strong, explosive, can score from the inside, can score from the outside, is going to go do a post-grad year at South Kent, but also could be an unsigned senior if the school wants him right now. And physically, he's just ready to play like immediately. He'll go in and step on the floor and be able to play 15 minutes, no problem at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems like one that I know we've been pushing it a ton, but seems like a high-level guy that probably shouldn't still be available. But if he does land somewhere, it's definitely going to hit the ground running. Colby, who you got there?
Most ready for college comes to mind. Unsigned senior that I feel very confident sending out to coaches and that coaches have been hitting my phone up about. Ashton Reynolds. Reason why, 6'4", 42-inch vertical, ridiculous athlete. Showed that he has ability to score it from all three levels this weekend. But it's just a show to watch whenever there's a clear lift-off path for him. It looks like he's jumping off a pogo stick, gets his elbow above the rim. Just truly, truly high level. But what stood out to me the most with a guy like this and what makes me feel very comfortable, promoting him to college coaches, that he cares about the defensive end. Whether, he's guarding the ball and as soon as his man picks up the dribble, he's harassing him, trying to, shade wherever he's trying to pass the ball to. And I just thought his energy and his determination to win, I know those were kind of cliche terms there, but it was just evident. And you could tell he enjoys playing the game. You can tell there's a lot of still untapped potential there with his body and whatnot. And it's just overall offensive skill, but a ton to bring to the table. And for these guys who are looking for an off-ball guard or 6'4", maybe a smaller wing that can be a lob threat anytime he's around the rim, Ashton Reynolds needs to be on the call log.
Yeah, he's a really unique story too, just from the standpoint of he played 3A at Transit Tech here in New York City, averaged 31 points a game. And, again, around New York City was kind of talked about, but not in the way that he should have been. And he's really come into the made hoop circuit and taken advantage of the platform here. And I can speak from personal experience. He's an incredible kid off the floor too. Very appreciative, very hardworking, just I really have nothing bad to say about the kid, and I think Colby's right. There have been a lot of schools asking about him after this weekend, and I think that's a guy that we actually will see come off the board here probably within the next week or two. And it's kind of, like I said, it's a really unique story in the standpoint of he was a relative unknown outside of New York City, and now he's staring down the barrel of potentially a couple D1 offers and coming off the board here.
Ashton was also a kid on my very, very short list for offensive MVP of this weekend. So I think all three of us on here and the bunch of college coaches and program directors and just the viewers this weekend that were there in person all kind of came away thinking Ashton Reynolds is a guy that is heavily under-recruited right now, but I think those tides are starting to shift. And like Flynn said, I do expect him to come off the board here pretty soon.
Oh, between this episode, obviously our last episode, going through a bunch of guys in the draft, we've talked about a bunch of the top guys, but wanted to do this one after you guys all saw a bunch of different MHG guys throughout the weekend. Wanted to go to most underrated, maybe a guy that you think's fallen through the cracks, could be any class. Jeff, who's a guy that jumps out for you?
So I got a guy that I saw some of. He's a Jersey guy, plays at Blair Academy. So I saw him throughout the high school season, but I never watched him super closely like I did this weekend. I love watching 𝘖aximizing play from Jersey Force. His brother played Division I at Yale. He's 6'5", could really shoot it, super athletic. He is a leader. He is always talking on the floor. He's always getting his teammates going. He's the consummate, just, locker room leadership, kind of, that captain role for the team. And he just keeps that team together. He's really good defensively. He's ultra competitive. But like he does some of everything. Super high academic kid. I think he's a Patriot League, Ivy League special. I think staffs in those conferences would be smart to get out and see him. He had a really, really impressive week. I think Zach is a guy that the more he's getting to show his full ability, the more people are starting to talk about him, and the talk is warranted. He had a tremendous, tremendous week at DMV Live for Jersey Force.
Yeah, to back that up, I mean, he's been doing it all MHC season, but I swear it's something about that kid. He sets foot in the gym and he just does not stop talking. I mean, he's an incredible competitor, whether it's calling stuff out defensively, whether it's letting the opposition know about what bucket he just scored. He is constantly he's never quiet. And, that's a thing that I think we see less and less of with guys and the thing that's underrated is being able to communicate and kind of control what's going on both ends of the floor. And Zach does that from the wing, right? Like, he's not necessarily a guard. He's not necessarily a four-man. He just gets stuff done, and he finds a way to have an impact regardless of where he's being deployed and where he is in the lineup.
No doubt. That's a great one. Flynn, you got a favorite most underrated guy?
I do, and it really shouldn't be underrated, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. It's 𝘖aximizing. I mean, to me, and I think to the rest of us too, he's clearly a Division I guy, and he's still out there looking for an offer. He's taken some visits over the past couple of weeks, but at 6'6", he can guard 1 through 3 pretty comfortably. You could throw him on a 4, and he's strong enough, to handle that. And he rebounds the ball well. The big question about him going into this high school season and the spring was how would he shoot it? I mean, this weekend he shot it very well. I think Jeff would back me up on that, and Colby would also back me up on that. And he's a guy who continues to get better and is still working. And, I know we talk a lot about how the portal has kind of squeezed these guys out, in 2024 is really the last class that we're going to feel it in this kind of volume, let's say. But, 𝘖aximizing is just plain and simple a Division I player. And the fact that he doesn't have anything yet is just kind of insane to me.
I think 𝘖aximizing had 2 games this weekend that he hit 3 or more threes. So the questions of can he shoot it at that level, I think he answered them. And there aren't a lot of other questions with his game. I think people talk about no-brainers too much when they're not really accurate. 𝘖aximizing is a no-brainer. He is a no-brainer Division I prospect with his length, his athleticism, his toughness, and his skill level that's now matching it. I think somebody is going to get a really, really impressive late steal when they trust their eyes and get on board with 𝘖aximizing.
Yeah, obviously late in the cycle, I feel like it's a cliche to say someone's a steal at 24s, like a high-level 24s available. But there aren't a lot of 24s just from your guys' breakdown at 6'6" that do those types of things. So sounds like very much a sleeper. So we'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out over the next few weeks. Flynn, who you got? I mean, Colby, who you got for most underrated there?
Yeah, I watched this guy the first night, and immediately fell in love. And I know that it wasn't like he might not be a guy that catches a lot of folks' eyes, but Miles Montgomery from Midwest Basketball Club, 5'10" point guard, and just does everything that you would want your point guard to do when he's surrounded by guys who can also put it in the bucket. I feel like he's just, I don't want to say he's elite at one thing, but what he does a lot of things really well and really balanced and really efficient. Pressures the ball defensively. He's able to set the tone in transition, pushing the tempo. He can definitely slow it down and run an offense in the half court. He's capable of taking your head off from three if you're not closing out in time. And then he has the body and the frame to absorb contact, whether it be on drives to the rim to score or to dish. I mean, I don't think he's going to do a lot of things that are going to wow you in terms of getting on a highlight tape, but in terms of making smart, high IQ basketball plays that translate to the college level, I saw that. Also, Max, you and I have talked, it seems like not endless hours, but a long time of like, we watch kids and see how those around them enjoy playing with them. I would want to play on Midwest Basketball Club if it meant that Miles is going to be my point guard. He does all the hard stuff on the perimeter. I can chill. Once we get in transition, I know he's going to find me. He's just going to make all the right plays that you need. So, and it led to them, earning a bunch of good wins and getting on a lot of college coaches' radars. But he's just a very safe, productive point guard with a high GPA as well, 4.0. So, just for those moving forward, those high academics, keep an eye on him. He's I think he plays 2 or 3 sports. So just an all-around athlete, you can definitely tell.
The one thing I would add on to that too is that if you're going to say he does one thing elite, I think it's be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
He's an elite culture guy. I mean, he absolutely knows how to get his guys in the right spots and when he's setting them up. Off the floor, you can see the rest of that team gravitate towards him. He's definitely the guy that kind of keeps them together, both from on the court and off the court standpoint. I think we'll see that with Travis's interview with them that will come out with their team spotlight. The kid is just really charismatic and knows how to lead other guys around him. And he's a guy that you can actually build a team around, build a program around, because he can do a bunch of things well. And more so, he knows how to lead other guys around him.
And he wins. He impacts winning.
Love it. I'm going to put you guys on the spot here for the last one. We were going to do favorite sleeper, but instead, and Colby reminded me of it a little bit, I want to do favorite team. And it doesn't just have to be one of the top teams or by record or anything like that. So I'm going to start with Jeff here, put you on the spot, whether it's style of play, favorite players on one team. Who is one of those teams that you just really enjoy watching on MHC?
I love watching Team Takeover National. They are so connected. Coach Chuck Henry does a tremendous job with them, and it feels like it's year after year with them. But this year's group is no different. It's a culture thing. When you see Takeover there, they encompass what that is. And this year's version is great. They're super connected. Their guard play is really, really good. They have size. They play fast. It's very free flowing, but super tough and physical. The skill level and the physicality match. I love the pace they play with, and they can beat you in a bunch of different ways. Like me personally, I'm a big, pace and space kind of guy. I love getting up a lot of threes, and they have that ability. They can also pound you inside with drives, and Elijah Flowers attacking the rim, or Liberty in the paint, causing havoc. Caleb Gillis and Jeremy Clark on the perimeter. Like, they're just a cohesive unit that all kind of complement each other really well. They're a team that I think I watched some of all of their games. I think I might have sat down and watched a couple games in full. They're just a really, really fun team to watch.
Yeah, sounds like a team takeover team for sure.
I like that selection, Jeff.
Yeah, I had to steal that one from you. I figured you were going with them, so I took them first.
There's just no holes in that roster, right? They have somebody who does everything, whether it's shooting, whether it's the big man inside with Liberty, whether it's slashing through Elijah. Like, there's somebody who finds a way to be productive in different ways. And I mean, it goes to your point about culture of like, hey, takeover is takeover. I mean, that trickles down to Takeover National as well. Like, they're very much just like another Takeover team that all they're going to do is win. And we see them towards the top of the standings right now. So they're proving that theory out right now.
And really quick, just to add another thing, I didn't get to throw in my defensive player, but one that what I would choose from is Caleb Gillis from a guard position. Obviously, the defensive player is always easy to tab, a big who alters shots or grabs rebounds or whatnot. Caleb Gillis sets the tone from the point of attack for them. I saw him take one thing, and if you guys have seen Sidwell Friends play during the year, Caleb's going to take 2 or 3 charges a game. So this weekend, that was full of it. If there's a 50-50, he's on the ground first, and he's really just takes a lot of pride in his individual matchup. So I think he helped swing the momentum of games when Takeover, was trailing late. That would, ultimately help them get a win.
Glad you got that in there. Going back to Flynn here for favorite team. Who you got?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go with Rising Stars Red, a group from Long Island. So this is the epitome of me being a homer. But a really tough group. I mean, CJ Smiley and Carter Wilson from Bay Shore have been nothing short of incredible for them in all of our events this spring. The other kid is Chase Timberlake from Baldwin, who shoots like the ever-living hell out of it. I mean, he hit a game winner off a great find from Carter to knock off White Mamba. I mean, they went 3-1 on the weekend. Those guys just find a way to win games. Ryan Henfling continues to get better, speaking about another Blair Academy guy, and he mans the middle for them. That's another team that really doesn't have a ton of holes in their roster and found a way to win, way more games than lose this past weekend. And because of where they're from, I think they get slept on a little bit. Long Island's not a huge place that produces a ton of talent, but those guys are tough. They play together, they win, and Prentice Small can really, really coach.
To Flynn's credit, he's been telling me about Rising Stars Red and this year's team for a long time. Heading into DMV Live, he made sure I went to the White Mamba game, and I was not disappointed. That group plays super hard together. They are skilled, they are talented, they are incredibly well coached. It was a good choice by you, Flynn, to make sure I saw that in person.
Yeah, no. They're if you were going to do most slept on team, I think they would also be my pick for that.
For sure. All right, rounding it out here, Colby. I know your homer team was probably taken, so who you got?
No, man, and it was a valiant effort by Jeff to assign me to certain things this weekend in terms of games. But wherever New Haven Heat was playing, I was at. So I just as he named his MVP with Tony, I can watch him any day. He's going to get it done at both ends. I thought Q Duncan is a guy who I don't want people to forget about because he's extremely valuable next to Williams. Jeff made the tweet that in terms of independent backcourts, you're not going to find a better one. I'm in full agreement of that. And the list goes on, but they have really good chemistry on that team. They play really tough, and every college coach who showed up who didn't know who they were, like who's the team with a bunch of fire on their jersey, I'm like, just sit down and watch, and it would probably take 2 minutes, and they were these guys are dudes. So I was definitely went against schedule, Jeff. Apologies, and was courtside for New Haven for quite a few games this weekend. But I also just want to shed some light quickly on 6th just a bunch of 6'4" to about 6'8" European players, and you knew something was up when they were on the side on the turf and they had a soccer ball and they were juggling it with each other and keeping count, and they put their basketball shoes on, go out, swing that thing about 12 times a possession, find a wide open shot, and knock it down. So I'll always sign up for that sort of basketball as well. So if it was New Haven Heat or 6th, I was probably courtside, and I definitely look forward to watching those guys moving ahead.
2 things there. One, New Haven Heat might have the most impressive 1-3 weekend I've ever seen from an AAU team. They lost a couple of really close games, so that record's super misleading. I remain really high on them. They remain one of the best teams we got. I'm not going to go too much further. You hit pretty much all those points. And then for 6th, I mean, a guy like Unai Fernandez, like 6'6", kind of do-it-all guard. I mean, he kind of embodies that team of they play really positionless and unselfish basketball, and they all kind of just rotate through and keep that ball moving. They're a really fun group to watch. And yeah, you're right. I mean, yes, they were kicking a soccer ball around the turf. Friday, they were also kicking a soccer ball around on the basketball court just to burn some energy before they started playing. But that group's really connected, really tough, and then another team that's very well coached.
That 𝘖borough team was a talk of the week, and they would be my number 2 of my favorite teams to watch. And their program director Nihad tried to get me to pronounce their big fellow's name correctly. I'm going to stick with Reja, but he is such a fun player to watch. He's like 6'8", thick-bodied, great footwork, great hands, can really pass, below the rim player, but finds a way to get it done. He is not Nikola Jokic, but he plays that style. It's super fun. It's the ball just pops. I felt like while I'm watching them, it's I'm watching one of the European teams play against Team USA in the Olympics, and the player for player talent might not always favor 𝘖borough, but the scoreboard somehow always favors 𝘖borough because that ball is just moving around. They play super well together. They could all shoot it. They could all pass it. They all make great reads. That is an incredibly fun team to watch, and they are incredibly well coached.
RIP Travis Graf for not making this podcast, but he made the point Friday night after watching them play that we should have just like done it like the Serbian league style and had people light up a bunch of flares while they were playing, because they really do bring that European style and embody it and play it, and they play with a ton of joy too, which is just a lot of fun to watch.
Love it. Great stuff.
Max, I want to throw in a favorite sleeper. I don't know if Flynn and Colby do, but I got one that I got to say because he had a tremendous weekend, and he gets a little bit overshadowed by his backcourt mate.
All right, let's hear it.
Xavier Johnson, Michigan Unified. I know I talked about Lance Stone as my MVP, and it is deserved, and Lance was incredible this weekend. Xavier Johnson was right there with him. 6'4", lefty, super athlete, steps out and makes threes. Like, Xavier is a Division I basketball player. I am very confident in that. He is a guy that I know. I was watching a game with Flynn where Xavier, I think he had 25, probably had 7 or 8 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. He's got his arms touch the floor. He's getting deflections. He's in passing lanes. And I'm sitting there saying to Flynn, like, I know Lance is great. This team's going nowhere without Xavier. Like, this kid is incredible. I spoke with their coach after the game, and he said that Xavier is kind of just their straw that stirs a drink. He makes things go for them. He's kind of their heartbeat, their toughness. I wanted to make sure we got Xavier the recognition that he earned with his play from this past weekend.
Great stuff. If you guys are all set on sleepers, we'll get out of here. All right.
Yeah.
We'll save it for another episode, but great stuff. Like I said, appreciate you guys hopping on. We'll definitely have you guys back on to dive into some more pretty soon here.
Thanks, Maxie.
Hey, Max.